The Mauryan Empire spans from 322 to 185 BC. Okay, I hope you will all remember the Mahajanapadas, which led to Magadha Empire, and the last dynasty of the Magadha Empire is Nanda dynasty, whose last king Dhanananda was defeated by Chandragupta Maurya, which led to the creation of the Mauryan Empire. Now let's talk about Chandragupta Maurya, the founder of the Mauryan Empire. Chandragupta Maurya was a very, very young king who was ambitious and who wanted to take advantage of the situation at that time. So if you look at Chandragupta Maurya, okay, he was a very simple man, and then he met Chanakya, and Chanakya guided him on how to become a successful ruler. Chanakya taught him how to rule, how to administer, how to control his soldiers. So Chanakya was kind of like the simulator of Chandragupta's brain on how to administer, how to wage wars, how to maintain diplomatic relations between people. And in the following few slides, we will learn about how Chandragupta maintained relations with other kings, how he conquered other territories. So now I've explained this. He overthrew Nanda dynasty and he founded the Mauryan Empire. It is very important for you guys to know about Chandragupta Maurya and some special details about Chanakya. Chanakya was also known as Kautilya or Vishnugupta. Okay, Vishnugupta or Kautilya. So in the examination, if they ask a question related to Kautilya or Vishnugupta, know that they're referring to Chanakya. He was the advisor to Chandragupta Maurya. He was the advisor or the prime minister to Chandragupta Maurya. Okay, and also known as a political strategist. Now he wrote Arthashastra, which is a treatise on statecraft. Arthashastra contains, by and large, the history of the Mauryan Empire. It talks about how many soldiers and what kind of soldiers, whether it was infantry, whether it was cavalry, or how many elephants Chandragupta owned, which were all exaggerated. So which is why I haven't added it here. Okay, it talks about the number of elephants exceeding like 1 lakh and so forth, and which is a little exaggerated. It might have been exaggerated, okay? But Arthashastra is an amazing book about statecraft, about how to be a ruler and how to keep the subjects of the kingdom satisfied, and how to control the economy, how to maintain diplomatic relations with other countries, and how to wage warfare, okay, and so forth. And we will also see the espionage system, the spy system later on. Now, first we need to understand what actually happened towards the beginning of the Mauryan Empire. Okay? So, you look at this Hellenistic world, and it is called Seleucid Empire. Okay? So this was the map. The moment Chandragupta Maurya defeated the Nanda dynasty, this was the map. And now, what is Hellenistic world? Hellenistic world, the term Hellenistic comes from the Greek word Hellen. Okay, the Greeks called themselves Hellen. Okay, so it was a period between Alexander's death, after the end of Alexander's death, and all the way up till 35 AD. It was a dark period. After Alexander passed away, Alexander had number of generals, and these generals divided the kingdom among themselves. Okay, and one of the generals of Alexander was Seleucus I Nicator, and he controlled this part of the empire that Alexander once controlled. Okay, so Seleucus Nicator waged a war against Chandragupta Maurya, and he was defeated by Chandragupta Maurya, and eventually he had to give up 3 territories: Gedrosa, Arcosia, Bactria. Okay, these were actually under the control of Alexander. But like I said, once Alexander left India, Chandragupta Maurya took advantage of it, and he took control of large parts of Alexander's territory. Okay, and once Alexander passed away, he was succeeded by Seleucus Nicator, and Nicator came back and challenged Chandragupta Maurya, saying, "This is our land. This is our territory. You have no right to take over this land. But by the time Chandragupta was already established, he took over the land, and then Chandragupta said, well, let's fight. And they fought. And he won, okay? Chandragupta won, and when the peace treaty was signed, he ceded Ketrosia, Argosia, and Bactria to Chandragupta Maurya, okay? Now, in his conflict with Seleucus Nicator, once he defeated Nicator, they signed a treaty, and there was a territorial settlement and diplomatic relations as well. As part of territorial settlement, Chandragupta was given Bactria, Argosia, and Getrosia. And as part of diplomatic relations, Nicator sent an envoy named Megasthenes to the court of Chandragupta Maurya, okay, to maintain the friendly diplomatic relations. In the name of the settlement that Nicator had with Chandragupta Maurya, he sent an envoy named Megasthenes as an ambassador to Chandragupta's court. Megasthenes is a very important name, and his book Indica is frequently asked in the examination. So now I hope. Yeah, sure. Okay, fine. It's okay. Now, Megasthenes was sent to the court of Chandragupta Maurya, and that's how Chandragupta Maurya came into being, okay? Chandragupta Maurya defeated the Nanda dynasty, and then he took over the large part of the Magadha Empire. And the moment he took over the Magadha Empire, the Nanda dynasty specifically, he was challenged by Nicator, the successor of Alexander, and he defeated Nicator, and Nicator had to cede Bactria, Argosia, and Ketrosia to Chandragupta Maurya, and Chandragupta Maurya's territory expanded all the way up till this is beyond. Let's look at India map, right? This is India map, and it extends beyond India map all the way till Pakistan and Afghanistan. Argosia is in Afghanistan, Bactria is in Afghanistan, Ketrosia is in Pakistan. Okay, so it extended all the way up till this line. Okay, so the Mauryan Empire, all the yellow part is the Mauryan Empire, and this grayish part is the Hellenistic world or Seleucid Empire. Now, Megasthenes and Indica. Okay, Megasthenes was a Greek ambassador who was sent to the court of Chandragupta, and his book Indica describes Mauryan Empire, and it is the inscription of Megasthenes through which we are able to reconstruct the history of the Mauryan Empire. Okay, Arthashastra and Indica, these are the two main sources of the Mauryan Empire, including, of course, the pillars and ethics, which we will learn about later on. Okay, so Megasthenes' account covers Patliputra, administration, society, army, economy. And in all these kingdoms, have you guys noticed that there's one common city named Patliputra? Okay, all the kings choose Patliputra as the capital, and Patliputra is in Bihar, present-day Bihar. Okay, Indica is an important foreign account of Mauryan in India. Now, we look at the Mauryan state. We have the emperor, and then we have the central administration system, and then we have the provincial administration system, and then we have the district local administration system. It was a very well set up structure. The Mauryan state had a very well structured administrative system. It was divided into central, then the central was divided into there was a central administration which was divided into provinces, and these provinces were divided into districts or local administration system. Okay, they had an impressive revenue system. They also had spy system, espionage, and they also had a very well-standing army, and they had good law and order, and trade and commerce was blooming at the time. You will learn about that later. So Mauryan Empire was a highly organized and centralized state. Now, power of the Mauryan state. Okay, they had a spy system and they had the army. These are the two special features of the Mauryan state. When we talk about the army, we have the large standing army, we have the infantry, cavalry on horses, we have the elephants, we have the chariots. And spy system, intelligence gathering, monitoring officials and political activity. They had the spy system, and it was the important instrument of central control. Okay, this spy system, these spies, they were very vigilant, and they toured different parts of the country to gather intelligence on how the governors were doing, how the district heads were doing, how the villages were doing, and these reports were submitted to Chandragupta Maurya alongside Chanakya or Kautilya. Okay, and that's how they were able to understand the core problems of the society, core problems of the administration, and that's how it solved it. So this spy system was a very important feature of the Mauryan state. Now the next king after Chandragupta Maurya was Bindusara. Okay, he was the son of Chandragupta Maurya and the successor of Chandragupta Maurya. This is the date 298 to 273 BC. He was the son and successor of Chandragupta Maurya, and he continued Mauryan expansion. He maintained the empire between Chandragupta and Ashoka. The next comes Ashoka. Okay, there's nothing much to study about Bindusara. There's a few points which you will find in your notes that you can memorize. But Ashoka is a very important king, and we will dig very deep for Ashoka. After Bindusara came Ashoka. Okay, and Ashoka's reign spanned from 268 to 232 BC, and once Ashoka became the Mauryan emperor, he expanded the empire, and as part of the empire's expansion, he waged a war against the empire called Kalinga. Okay, and this war is known as the Kalinga War, which was the turning point for Ashoka. Now, as you can see in the map, this is Kalinga. Okay, this is Kalinga. You can see the present shape of the Indian map. This is Kalinga, and this is the yellowish part is the entire Mauryan Empire. Okay, it wasn't exactly this way. Ashoka expanded large parts of the territory, the Mauryan territory, and he went to Kalinga, and he waged a war against Kalinga. Okay, under Ashoka, one of the largest empires of the ancient world, that is Mauryan Empire, and he waged a war against Kalinga, okay, to bring the independent Kalinga under his rule. And this war caused tremendous suffering and devastation, massive loss of life. It seems the loss of life was estimated to be more than 100,000 men. And that was insane. There was a lot of bloodshed, there was a lot of loss of life, and which led to Ashoka's remorse. He was deeply moved by the suffering. Ashoka experienced profound remorse, or in other words, regret over the war. Okay, and he gave up violence. There was a change in policy and ideology of Ashoka. Ashoka renounced conquest by war and just renounced conquest by war and just the policy of Dhamma. What is Dhamma? A policy of moral governance, compassion, and welfare for all. Okay, it was a kind of like a moral guide for Ashoka. Dhamma is simply a moral guide. A lot of people get confused between Dhamma and Buddhism. Dhamma is different from Buddhism, and you will understand why in the following few slides. So the Kalinga War became the turning point in Ashoka's life. Okay, Ashoka's Dhamma. After the Kalinga War, the remorse happened, and then he chose the policy of Dhamma, which led to ethical and social conduct. Ashoka's Dhamma was a broader ethical policy, not simply Buddhism. A lot of people, why people get confused between Ashoka's Dhamma and Buddhism is because you can see in the next slide Ashoka's activity when it comes to Buddhism. He even sent his son Mahendra and his daughter Sangamitra to Sri Lanka to spread Buddhism, and he sent different envoys and ambassadors to different parts of the world to propagate Buddhism. And which is why people often say that Dhamma is related to Buddhism. It has nothing to do with Buddhism. Dhamma is not a religion. Okay, it's a characteristics, it's a nature, it's the feeling, the state of being, the quality of being ethical, the quality of being social. It has no religion. It has a very universal approach towards humanity. It doesn't come from a religious standpoint. So Ashoka's Dhamma simply means non-violence, compassion, respect for elders, kindness to servants and dependents, tolerance towards different religious groups, welfare of the people. Okay? I hope the difference between Dharma and Buddhism is clear. Now, this is the spread of Buddhism of Ashoka. Kashmir and Gandhaka, he sent Machantika, Machima, and so forth. Okay, the only person, two person that you need to know is Mahendra and Sanghamitra. Ashoka's son Mahendra and his daughter Sanghamitra. Okay, these are the two names that you need to know. The rest, you do not. It's not necessary for you guys to know. The third Buddhist council, which was held in Patliputra in 250 BC, and whose the one who presided was Moggaliputta. Ashoka was the patron of the third Buddhist council. Okay, the third Buddhist council. Ashoka was the patron of the third. The first Buddhist council was Ajatasattu. Second was Kalashoka. Third is Ashoka, and fourth is Kanishka. Okay. So another clarification about Ashoka's Dharma. Ashoka's Dharma was broader than Buddhism. Okay, it was a moral and social policy for the whole empire. For the entire empire, he concocted the moral and social policy for the entire empire in the form of inscriptions, in the form of ethics, in the form of scripts, which you will find later. Okay, in our presentation. We have different rock ethics, major, minor rock ethics, and different inscriptions which talk about Ashoka's non-violence approach. Focus on non-violence, compassion, respect, and welfare, inspired by Buddhist ideas, but not limited to the Buddhist doctrine. And one very important term which you might be asked in the examination is Dhamma Vicaya. Dhamma Vicaya means victory through righteousness. It's the same as Dhamma, but a more extended version of the term Dhamma. Dhamma Vicaya means victory through righteousness or conquest through moral force. Emperor Ashoka of the Mauryan Empire created this idea after the bloody Kalinga War. He stopped military expansion. Listen, Dig Vicaya, and chose to win hearts through kindness, truth, and ethical values instead of war. Okay, Dhamma Vicaya instead of Dig Vicaya. Dig Vicaya means military expansion. Now, the very funny thing that a lot of people say is that he stopped military expansion, right? But he stopped only after he conquered almost the entire territory of India. What's there to conquer anymore? Again, just a speculation. Okay. Now, you look at Dhamma Mahamatas. Ashoka, in order to propagate the policy of Dhamma, appointed Dhamma Mahamatas. Okay, this is a very important post during the Ashokan period. Dhamma Mahamatas were officials associated with promoting Dharma and welfare. Okay, these were officers or officials appointed to promote Dharma and welfare. Another very important point for your exam, Dhamma Mahamatas. Now, Ashoka's ethics. Okay, these are various inscriptions inscribed on rocks, pillars, and so forth. Okay. There are different types of ethics. One is rock ethic, one is pillar ethic, and then we also have the cave inscriptions. We will study all of them. So inscriptions are the primary source for Ashoka. Okay, so the key purpose is to communicate dharma, like I said in the beginning, address officials and subjects, record policies and instructions, promote ethical conduct. Now we will take a look at the ethics. Now, if you look at it, we have the 14 major rock ethics. And we also have the minor rock ethics. We have the separate Kalinga ethics. And if you look at the major pillar ethics and minor pillar ethics, you can see the different lists here. Okay, I will zoom it, don't worry. First, you look at the 14 major rock ethics. Okay, out of these 14 rock ethics, ethic number 12 and ethic number 13 are the two important ethics. The rest, not too important. Okay, you can still memorize the ones that you think are important, but they'll likely not ask you which major rock etic contains this and that in the APSC. But if they do ask, 12 and 13 are important. And we also have the minor rock etic. After minor rock etic, the musky rock etic is very important because it contains the name Ashoka. Okay, the rest, Brahmagiri, Nitur, Udyakolam, Gavimat, so forth, you don't have to memorize it. The musky rock etic is very important. It will contain the name Ashoka. Okay, and the Papru Bairat etic contains Ashoka's personal association with Buddhism. Okay, that's another important one. And there was the separate Kalinga ethics, Doli and Jokada. Doli and Jokada. The Kalinga ethics are found in the Doli and Jokada area, and which contains special instructions for the administration of Kalinga. The most important feature of the Doli and Jokada ethic is it contains this phrase, all men are my children. Again, you might be asked this question, and the answer might be either Kalinga ethics or Doli and Jokada ethic. Okay? So the Kalinga ethics are found in these two places. Okay? So the answer might be Kalinga or Doli and Jokada. They are all same. Now we look at the minor pillar ethics. In the minor pillar ethics, Lumbini is very important. Okay, Lumbini. Ashoka visited Lumbini. In the Lumbini inscription, it talks about Ashoka's visit to Lumbini, and then he saw the condition of Lumbini, and then he gave them a tax concession. He reduced their tax. Okay, that's a very interesting story, and that is very important. Okay, Lumbini is Buddha's birthplace, by the way, if you guys remember. So Ashoka visited Lumbini, and then tax concession was given to the Lumbini. Okay, that's another very important. And Nikali, not too important. Sarnath, Sanchi, and Allahabad. Sanchi. Now, Sarnath, Sanchi, and Allahabad. Allahabad is also known as Prayagraj. These are Sangha Schism ethics. Okay, Sarnath, Sanchi, Allahabad. These three combinations are very important because it contains a Sangha Schism ethic. Schism, what is the meaning of schism? It means division. Okay, it states that if anyone goes against the unity that we have in this Buddhist religion, you will all be punished. And what was the punishment? The punishment was they will be made to wear white robes or white garments. Buka kapra lagawa lagi. And during the time, the monks and nuns, buka kapra dan nalagay. They use a different color. I think it's green. Okay, so making them wear the white garment is kind of like an insult. Okay, so it clearly states that we should maintain unity within Buddhism, and there should be no schism. Ashoka takes schism very seriously. So this Sarnath, Sanchi, and Allahabad minor pillar inscription contains the Sangha Schism ethic, and Allahabad or Prayagraj contains the Queen's ethic. Okay, now the Queen's ethic is Karavaki. Ashoka's second queen was Karavaki. Okay, Ashoka's second queen was Karavaki. Now, if you look at the queen ethic, this is very important. The reason why this is important is because it contains the Queen's ethic, and in the Queen's ethic it mentions that Garuvaki is Ashoka's second wife. Okay, and also it contains Garuvaki's. Ashoka is not only the second wife but also the son of the mother of Prince Divala. The mother of Prince Divala. Now, Prince Divala was the son of Ashoka. It's very obvious. And Prince Divala passed away before Ashoka. Okay, so Pachai Joldi Muri Jashe, which is why Divala's son Dasaratha became Ashoka's successor, Dasaratha, which is why Ashoka's grandson Dasaratha succeeded him. Okay, so it is the only inscription that mentions about Ashoka's wife. The Allahabad pillar inscription is the only inscription that mentions about Ashoka's wife. Okay, which is why it is very important. The Queen's ethic Allahabad inscription or Prayagraj. And Ashoka's second wife, Garuvagi. The rest of the wives, we don't know. We have no idea. Okay. Maiki to pishi thakibo, but second wife to Garuvaki ase. Kuina mo anjane. Okay. And then Garuvaki la pachado Divala. I hope it's understandable. So Allahabad, again, Allahabad inscription is very important. And very important Ashokan sites are Barabar caves. Okay, Ashoka donated the Barabar cave to the Ajivika monks. Okay, which is why again this inscription is also very important. Yes, and Nagarjuni Hills inscription. Dasaratha Maurya, the successor of Ashoka, the grandson of Ashoka, also donated the Nagarjuna Hills to the Ajivika sect. And we also have the Gandhar inscription. Okay, this is also another very important because it is the only inscription written in Greek and Aramaic. Okay, Greek and Aramaic. And Shabaskari, Kharosthi script, Mansera, Kharosthi script, not too important. Now, most of the Indian subcontinent, it is written in Prakrit language and Brahmi script. Okay, this is a script used by Ashoka and the language used by Ashoka to write. Okay, Prakrit and Brahmi script, another very important. And Maski will contain the name Ashoka. Lumbini inscription, we talked about Lumbini inscription earlier, about the text concession, Ashoka's visit to Lumbini. And Lumbini inscription also mentions about Buddha's birthplace. Okay, and this is how we got to know that Buddha was born in Lumbini. Okay, through the inscription of Ashoka. Interesting, right? Now, yes, that's it. And no, these are the important ones that I mentioned earlier, and that's it. Okay. Now this Ashokan script, inscription, all this Ashokan inscription was deciphered or deciphered by James Prinsep, Princep or Prinsep in 1837. Okay, and don't forget, okay, Kandahar inscription is the only inscription written in Greek and Aramaic. This is another very important. And the language used in Ashoka's inscriptions, majority Prakrit, main script Brahmi. Okay, but in the northwest inscription, Ashoka uses Kharosthi. So it's a little too much to take in, but I hope that you guys can go back home and then make special notes using this. Okay, there are many rock ethics and many pillar ethics, minor, major pillar ethics, and we don't know which ones to study, which ones not to miss out. So I have created this list, and even though I wanted to create this list in two separate slides, I wanted it all to be in one single slide so that all of you, in the future you can screenshot it and you can memorize it, or you can create your own using this. Okay, in your tablet it'll be very clear, don't worry. Mauryan art and architecture. Now these are the art and architecture of the Mauryan period. You look at the Ashokan pillar, right? It's amazing, isn't it amazing? You look at the capital, the animal figure, the emblem, and you look at the stupas. Okay, these are Buddhist monuments, and you look at the caves, Barabar caves. It was donated to the Ajivika monks. Okay, these are some of the special features of Mauryan art and architecture. We will also take under the art and architecture. Let's take a look at the Sarnath, the lion capital. Okay, Sarnath. This is located. This particular lion capital, this particular sculpture is located in Sarnath, which is in Uttar Pradesh near Varanasi. Okay, this is where Lord Buddha delivered his first sermon, right? Lord Buddha delivered his first sermon, the Dharma Chakra Pravartana or Dharma Chakra Pravartana Sutta. Emperor Ashoka built many monuments here to commemorate this sacred event, and one of which was the Sarnath pillar, the lion capital. Okay, so about the lion capital, it was erected by Emperor Ashoka in 3rd century BC. Originally crowned the Ashokan pillar installed at Sarnath, a masterpiece of Mauryan art, carved from polished sandstone. Sandstone, polished sandstone. What is the material, chief building material of the Sarnath pillar? The answer is polished sandstone. Okay, another very important fact. Now there are 4 lions at the top, as you can see. Pichiribi ekta ase, so charta ase. Back to back, representing power, courage, confidence, and pride. And we also have the Dharma chakra. This is the Dharma chakra, the wheel of Dharma with 24 spokes, which represent the eternal cycle of law, dharma, and righteousness. Eternal cycle of law, eternal cycle of dharma. Okay, which means it doesn't matter the generations, the change in generations, the change in human beings from one cycle to another. Dharma, Ashoka's dharma remains eternal. Now, animals on abacus. These are the animals. This is the abacus. Okay, this is the abacus, and the animals on abacus will consist of the elephant, the bull, the horse, and the lion. Okay, separated by dharma chakras. So jagade dharma chakras thakibo, and there will be 4 animals: elephant, bull, horse, and lion. Okay, so you can see the horse, the lion. Okay. The lion capital of Sarnath was adopted as the national emblem of India on 26 January 1950. Another very important fact. Okay, 26 January 1950. The 4 lions are visible, symbolizing strength, bravery, and confidence. The Dharma chakra is the center, signifies righteousness and the rule of law. Only the elephant, bull, horse, and lion are shown on the abacus. Okay, and in the bottom it is written Satyameva Jayati, which means truth alone triumphs. Okay, it is an extract from Mundaka Upanishad. Okay, a philosophical treatise, Mundaka Upanishad. Truth alone triumphs. So why was this chosen as a national emblem? It is a symbol that inspires the nation to uphold truth, justice, and dharma, and rightly so. Now this is life under the Mauryas. It's a little too exhaustive, but we will learn about that. Now this is agriculture, trade, crafts, and cities. Okay, there was fair taxation, state support for irrigation, and agriculture was the major economic base of the Mauryas. Okay, and they also had trade relations, internal as well as long distance network, river routes and roads connected to the empire, trade with Central Asia such as Afghanistan, West Asia, and beyond. Okay, metal work, textiles, and other specialized production, state regulated production, quality control, and standardization. And cities, planned cities with markets, warehouses, and so forth. Patliputra was known as the magnificent capital. Okay, now if you look at the state, the pillars of Mauryan power would be revenue, army, and administration. Okay, land revenue was the main source of revenue. The main source of revenue of the Mauryan the Mauryan period was land revenue. Okay, and they also had a very large standing army and administration, which I don't need to explain. A large empire required agriculture, surplus, revenue, administration. This cycle ensured stability, prosperity, and glory of the empire. So all these were made by this. Okay. Now, if you look at the administrative structure of the Mauryas, we have the central government. The central government resided in Patliputra, led by the emperor, and we also have the provinces, which were called chakras or janapatas, which was governed by Kumara. In your examination, chakras would be the better word. It was governed by Kumara, the prince, or Aryaputra, the royal prince. Okay, the provinces, and districts were managed by Prateshika, the district officer. Districts were called Prateshas or Aharas. Okay, and it was maintained by Prateshika, the district officer, or Rajuka, who was the revenue and judicial officer. And when we talk about cities, they were called Nagars, and it was governed by Nagarika or Nagaratyaksha with committees. Now villages were called Kramas, and the smallest unit of administration run by Kramika, the village headman, which is the same term that was used in the later Vedic period. Okay, so village will always be called Kramas in almost every period. Now key provincial capitals, Taxila, Ujjain, Tosale and Suvarnagiri. These were the key provincial capitals. And now the Patliputra had 6 committees with 5 members each. The committees are industry and crafts, foreigners, births and deaths, trade and commerce, manufactured goods, sales, tax and weight and measures. Okay, and measures. Now this was the common types of land revenue during the Mauryan period. The Bali or Paga, which was the king's share of the produce. Okay, usually 1/6 of the produce. So every time we plant something, for example, if there's if we produce 100 tons of wheat, we must give 1/6 of it to the king. So the king's share was called Bali or Paga. Okay. 100 posta paishigle do 1/6 would be 90 posta paishigle do 1/6 would be 15 posta do king get dibo lage na. And Poga, articles of services taken by the state from the cultivators. Okay. Prerequisites: Kara, cash tax paid in cash instead of a share of produce, cash. Hiranya, fixed cash payment assessed on land, often in lieu of produce. Okay, so if they don't Bali or Paga diana guledo, Hiranya diwo. Okay, land taxi as a instead of the produce, Kaloa ulala noigna, Matila tax piti separate ekta thagise. Utranga was irrigation tax and Westio bakery was bakery. Bakery, you will find this term often even in the later presentations. Bakery, forced labor. Okay, another term that you might be asked in the examination. Bakery. So in the happiness in Arthashastra, Kautilya's Arthashastra, in the happiness of his subjects lies the king's happiness, and in the welfare lies his welfare. Muchas. Other sources of revenue. These are the other sources of revenue: taxes on trade and commerce, custom duties for any goods exported outside of the Mauryan Empire, forest produces, trees, timber, and mines and minerals, fines and penalties, tolls and transit duties. Okay, I hope now all of you understand the administrative structure and then the land revenue especially. Now, Mauryan administration, we just talked about this part, and the emperor was known as Chakravartin. He was a supreme authority, and below him was the Mantri Parishad or the Dirthas. Mantri Parishad, the council of ministers, advises the king on policy and administration. Okay, Dirthas were high officials and headed departments, and it assisted in administration. Mantri Parishad is bigger than Dirthas. Okay, council of ministers is a Mantri Parishad. Now, important central officials and their functions: Mandrin, Purohita, Senapati, uton sab yedi diginas de minister, chief priest, commander in chief, and you have to memorize not everything, but Mandrin, Purohita. I think Purohita is not but in the later very great, the priest was also known as Purohita, right? Under the Rajan, we had Purohita, and Senapati is also another very common term, commander in chief. Yuva Raja, crown prince, Samarta. You have to know all this, okay? You have to memorize all this. And other important officials, non-Tirthas, Pradeshika, provincial officer, Rajuka, district officer, and so forth. So I needn't explain this. Highly centralized under the king, well-organized hierarchy from center to village, efficient revenue system and strong army, specialized departments for every function, use of spies, Gutha Burashas, okay, spies were called Gutha Burashas for information and control, regular inspection of officials and provinces, Dhamma, policy, in short, welfare of all. So if you can see, the Mauryan administration was highly centralized, meaning they had a hierarchical system, and the hierarchy was very strict, and it was the hierarchy that maintained the general, the system upon which orders were issued. If the king, every up to from the king all the way up to the village level, it was connected by a channel, okay, and there was this order of command that was very well organized. Including the crown prince, which headed the governor, and then provinces, and then we have the districts, and then we have the villages. Okay, all the officials were made to perform their functions efficiently. We learned about Chandragupta Maurya, we learned about Bindusara, we learned about Ashoka the Great. Another very important term, Ashoka is also known as Devanam-Priya. Okay? Devanam-Priya or Devanam-Priya. And actually, usually we consider Dasaratha to be the next king of Ashoka, okay? But Kunal, as you can see, son of Ashoka, very little is known, mentioned in Buddhist and Jain texts, okay? Now, after Dasaratha, came the rest of the rulers, Samprati, Salishuka, Devavarman, Brihadrata. The last king Brihadrata was killed by his commander Pushamitra Shunga, which ended the Mauryan Empire and which gave rise to the Shunga dynasty. Okay, so this is the extent of Mauryan Empire under Ashoka. We have Patliputra, which we talked about in Bihar. We have Ujjain, Kandahar, Taxila, Suvarnagiri. Okay. So this is the end of the Mauryan Empire. Now we will talk about why the Mauryan Empire declined. Okay, after the death of Ashoka, the successors were very weak, and there was regional fragmentation. Okay, it gave rise to various kingdoms, including the Shungas, the Kanvas, and later on, and also the Indo-Greeks, led by Menander, attacked the northwest part of India, and we have the Shatavahanas that rose in the south, and there was regional fragmentation, and there was also this decline of central authority as well. The king no longer had the kind of authority that, or the centralization that Ashoka maintained. And in 185 BC, Brihadrata was killed by his commander Pushamitra Shunga, and this gave rise to the beginning of the Shunga dynasty. So next we will learn about Shunga dynasty, but also at the same time we will go back to Alexander's invasion a little bit in the next class, Alexander's, and then we will move to Shunga, okay? Today